Hi everybody, it's me, Corrie Sommers, and today I am here with Retrofit1 and Helen, and we're going to talk a bit about retrofit and what that means for California.
Hey guys!
So Helen, tell me a little bit about Retrofit1, the business, how long you guys have been in business, and let's just kind of go from there. Let's start at the very beginning.
Sure. So Retrofit1, the specific division, has been around since about 2015. However, we've been in business now for over 10 years because we also do full repiping and plumbing, general contracting, and water damage restoration.
Oh, that's quite a bit of things, I think.
Yes.
So it's very interesting. Retrofit is obviously very common here in Southern California. Other states don't necessarily have this. We have earthquakes,
Yes.
which I think is predominantly one of the biggest reasons. And so when someone is buying a home, there's certain things that are required. Why don't we talk about that first? The things that are required before a home closes to be a part of retrofit.
Sure. So we primarily serve regarding retrofit. It is, larger apartment buildings, condominium buildings. However, we also still do individual residences for the bolting and bracing to get actual houses retrofitted for earthquakes. But right now, what's been happening with the city is that they've been able to identify some of the most vulnerable buildings, which they've looked at as having 2 or more stories with wood frame construction and built with the certain building code standards enacted prior to 1978, consisting of like the ground floor or tucked in parking. So that's pretty much the criteria that the city has shown as in the past when the earthquakes would happen, of just either collapsing tens of millions of dollars of damage, and not to mention a lot of people unfortunately lost their lives.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest thing with earthquakes is the loss of life. And then
Exactly.
the next thing is, okay, you survive the earthquake, the damage that ensues, and
Right.
everyone, I feel like, kind of panics if it's a
Yes.
big one, and rush to the stores to get everything, and then there's nothing for everybody else. So it gets a little
Exactly.
kind of crazy when we do have something major, which almost seems like it's like every 20 years.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. The Northridge one was, I believe, 1994. And then, of course, I know everybody around the 4th of July definitely felt the Ridgecrest earthquakes,
Right.
which were very scary, and our phones have been ringing off the hook to get their buildings retrofitted immediately.
Yeah, that's true. An earthquake and a shaker like that, if it doesn't impact us immediate in our area, it does remind us, hey, we need to be prepared.
Exactly.
And that sort of thing.
Exactly.
So one of the things with us, again, here in California, earthquakes and whatnot, and you guys, your focus with retrofit is seismic retrofit, correct?
Yes.
Talk about what that means and what the requirements are and what some of the things are that you guys do.
Of course. So when an earthquake happens, what occurs is just strong lateral force that's going to shake this building. So what the city now is requiring is for certain buildings, again, that fall under that criteria for vulnerability to be structurally reinforced, so that way when an earthquake does happen, the force is transferred into the new construction, which that's where we come in. So the types of construction that we do can consist of either installing moment frames, cantilever columns, or shear walls, for example. All of them act as now heavy reinforcement into the building. We put now these structure grade steel into these beams that get affixed into not only the existing structure into the building with now new framing all around. It's also embedded into a brand new foundation that we dig underground 2 to 3 feet. We insert a grade beam, fill it with structure grade cement, and now the new beams are embedded into them. So when an earthquake does happen, all that force gets transferred into these new steel beams instead of onto the vulnerable old type of buildings.
So I'm sitting here going, wow, that's really interesting, because I never really stopped to think about the details of it. So it almost feels like you've got let's say it's a house
Sure.
or a building, and it's built with wood, and now you're coming in and you're encasing it with like a layer of protection.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
and even going under the foundation, I didn't realize that that's part of that as well.
That's actually, to me, one of the most important parts what you don't see visually on the outside is what we do inside. So we open up the floor where the beams are going so they can be, again, embedded into that grade beam, as well as we have to open up the stucco across the lateral sides of whichever side is considered soft. We open that up in order to do either new blocking, we install some LTPs, new strapping, anything needed to get those new steel frames affixed to the existing structure.
Okay. And all of that is going to help keep a building intact, lessen damage,
Exactly.
falling walls or collapsing floors, and
Exactly.
people getting injured or losing their lives.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really interesting and obviously so very important. And it's great that here where we're prone to earthquakes, that there's things in place. So at this point, is seismic retrofitting 100% voluntarily, or what are kind of the things that are in place in terms of what has to be done and by when?
Of course. So in Southern California, the city of Los Angeles was one of the first cities to start sending out these notice to comply letters with compliance dates. So that began in about 2016. They sent it out to mainly the larger buildings, which consisted of 16 or more dwelling units or 3 or more stories. So all of those larger buildings got their notices in 2016. So at this point, many of their dates have passed. And then around 2017, that's where all other buildings that fit the soft story criteria were then sent their notices to comply.
Yeah, I had a client recently, we were looking for condos, and she has some friends, their condo building got hit with an assessment because they are soft story.
Right.
And so we had that conversation. I had to kind of go digging because I couldn't remember the ordinance.
Yes.
And I don't ever like to give my clients incomplete information
Yes.
and whatnot. So it was kind of like a refresher for me too, because
Yes.
it's you can't always tell by looking, but obviously there's some things that are obvious. If it has that subterranean parking and if the year built falls under that, it really might be.
Yes, and in this case, the parking isn't necessarily subterranean, completely underground. It's if the parking is tucked in on the ground floor itself.
Yeah. So, and that's important. We have a lot of those buildings here.
Yeah, exactly. Thousands to be exact. And regarding those compliance dates, from when they get their notice to comply date, they have 2 years to either show proof of an existing retrofit that was done, or to submit engineering plans to either retrofit or unfortunately demolish their building if they're unable to. From 3.5 years of their compliance date, they have to obtain the permit now that they've signed with a contractor or construction company. So they're going to begin retrofit or demolition. And then from 7 years of that compliance date, they have to complete construction.
Okay. So there's a little bit of leeway, which is good for anyone that's like, oh crap.
Of course, it is in stages, but again, since they started to come out in 2016, those stages, they're already now in stage 2 and have to be obtaining permits or signing with a construction company immediately.
Okay. You guys are focusing on property, real estate, whether it's apartment buildings, single family homes, condos, whatnot, commercial buildings. Sometimes, and this is just probably a little off topic, but I remember when the Northridge quake happened, the Freeway 1 exit up from me on the west side had collapsed, and I was like, oh my gosh, if I would have gone to work early, I'd have been on the freeway right there. Thank God it wasn't. But do you guys strictly deal with property and not that kind of project? Is that a little different? What's the difference?
Yeah, at least as of yet, we're not doing freeways or those types of structures, although I'm sure we could if needed. But right now our focus has been apartment buildings, condominium buildings, and we also work with individuals and HOAs.
Okay. And what areas do you focus mostly on? Because Southern California is obviously big and broad, and you're out here in the valley.
Yes.
What's your...
We do it all. So we do all of Los Angeles. Santa Monica started to send out their requirements in 2017. Pasadena recently passed theirs. West Hollywood, Beverly Hills. I know Burbank, Glendale, they're all either they already require it or they're about to. So we're even starting to branch out in Northern California, such as Oakland, Palo Alto, San Francisco, Hayward. Those ordinances are also right about to be passed. So we are branching out to do a division up in Northern California to be able to help all of the building owners and tenants up there.
Oh, so you guys are really going and handling everywhere where there's a need. Then.
Yes, exactly. Because like I mentioned, the other part of our company, which does the repiping and plumbing, we also serve up north too. So we're able to stretch all over California and potentially even more north, such I know Portland, Oregon, that whole area also has a big need for seismic retrofit. So we're expanding wherever it's needed.
Okay. And then so to be able to handle that kind of volume, how big is your company in terms of the guys that go out there and do this retrofit and that sort of thing? Do you have a big backlog for projects?
Yes, of course. So through our divisions, we have hundreds of employees that consist, of course, of in-office staff as well as all of our crews. And we do our best to make sure that we have as much in-house licensed employees as possible, which reduces our need to subcontract. So that way everything, as much as possible, is done in-house with our team.
That's awesome. Very self-contained. We love that.
Yes.
So let me ask you this question. I'm assuming people are searching for seismic retrofit because, you know, they're building their condo or the HOA or whomever is like, oh, we've got to get this done. So when they call you, what's one of the most common questions you get from people kind of vetting you out?
Right. So some of our most common questions consist of how much time do they have left, which we always make sure to assist. We look it up online to let them know their exact compliance date, as well as just what other services do we provide, what's included in our proposals, because we know how overwhelming and daunting these city requirements can be. So something our company, Retrofit1, includes with all of our proposals that some other companies don't, is we take care of all of those city requirements for the owner, including the tenant habitability plan. We take care of that, also known as THP. Somebody in-house, again, goes to the city for you, deals with all of the THP requirements, and communicates and works with your tenants. We also help set up, in the city of LA specifically, the cost recovery, which helps the owners recoup some of that cost of construction. So we take care of all of that. And we also offer a lifetime guarantee on all of our retrofit work. And because we've been around for over 10 years, unlike some companies who specifically only opened up for retrofit, we know that we're going to be around for the lifetime of your building. Therefore, all of our work has a lifetime guarantee.
That's awesome. Very fantastic. And I know we had also talked a little bit before, one of the reasons you guys have plumbing are part of what you do. And I think some people aren't really visualizing this. You might have to open walls, correct?
Yes, exactly. We definitely do. We open up, up top to create new framing, and sometimes we do run into unforeseen plumbing issues that other companies can't handle, and they would then require the owner to go find plumbers on their own and deal with all of these additional costs. Luckily for us, we have licensed in-house plumbers that can be on the job site that day, taking care of any rerouting necessary to get that plumbing rerouted so we can continue the retrofit work.
And I think that's so important because it's a time and cost factor, right?
Exactly.
You can get them out right away, you can address it right away. Whoever's having retrofit come out doesn't have to wait for 2 or 3 days to find a plumber or fit it in with their schedule and delay it and cost more money. It just really is a nice need.
Exactly. We're kind of a one-stop shop for all of your building, home improvement, retrofit needs.
Awesome. So Helen, you guys have this amazing visual here. Go ahead and walk us through, based on this image, what's going on and what this process does.
Sure. So this was actually taken from one of our earlier projects in 2016 in Westwood. And what you're seeing here in color is what's called a moment frame. So the moment frame consists of 3 steel beams going across longitudinally and laterally. And over here is where you see, from what I was describing, opening up the stucco work over here, because this frame, again, will get affixed into the existing structure through this area over here. And then down at the bottom, although you can't see it, we would open up a trench going from both sides of the building in order to put in the grade beam, which consists of hundreds of feet of rebar to basically form this big hollow cage that then gets filled with cement in order to have both feet of this moment frame at the bottom embedded into. So that way, now the building has this moment frame embedded into the existing structure.
Amazing. And then you also mentioned, or I've noticed on the Instagram page, you guys do some seminars too. Is that open to the public?
Yes, exactly. So we have free weekly seminars, typically on Wednesdays, although that's flexible as well if you can't make it on Wednesday. So give us a call if you want to attend any of our weekly free seminars to learn all about retrofit or anything specific to your building.
Helen, I really want to thank you very much for taking the time for me today. I think retrofit, there's two types that is very prudent here in California. You have your point of sale retrofit, which you guys, there's going to be a video on that coming soon, and I'll have the link below. And then of course seismic retrofit, which is so important since we are living in a place that does have earthquakes. We are on the West Coast, we're known for earthquakes, but there's faults throughout the country. So don't be surprised if this starts, coming to your area as well. And I honestly don't know how many states do this, but I could tell you that Massachusetts, Florida, and New York don't, New Hampshire doesn't, Maine doesn't, but that doesn't mean these things won't change. All it takes is one big earthquake and suddenly everyone's like, whoa, we're not prepared. Anything else you want to share with us? Any specials that you guys got coming on, or any sort of discounts?
Actually, right now throughout the rest of summer, just ask us for the City of Los Angeles about our plan check fee coverage, as well as including all THP and cost recovery fees.
Fantastic. I want to thank you again, and everyone. Retrofit1's information will be below, and it's the best thing to do, call or email?
Yes, just give us a call at 1-844-4-RETRO1.
Fantastic. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked today's video, please like it, and also if you have any questions or concerns, write those comments below. We'll make sure they get them, and of course, last but not least, definitely subscribe to my channel and click the bell so you'll get updated on the next one. Thank you guys.